Hi, it's Jeff, host of the podcast. My latest author interview will be up in just one moment. I'm not going to ask you to buy anything. I'm not going to ask you to go and review the podcast. What I am going to do is take just one brief moment and ask you to recommend the podcast to just one friend. If you're a writer, or if you're someone who just loves books and you love this podcast and the interviews that I do, all that I ask is that you recommend the podcast to just one friend. Thanks a lot. Welcome back to the Reading and Writing Podcast. My guest today is E.G. Keith, author of the debut novel, Havoc. Oh, and I should mention, E.G. is still in middle school. E.G., welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, if someone listening hasn't yet heard about your debut novel, Havoc, how would you describe the novel?
It's a fantasy novel, YA, young adult, about these 5 teenagers who go on a quest to save their prince before he's killed with a 10-day deadline.
And I'm curious, do you remember the original idea or impetus that led you to write Havoc?
So I started out by crafting my characters, which kind of the ideas stemmed off of that. So it was pretty much my characters that started it.
Sure. And I'm curious, I mean, as I mentioned, you're still pretty young. I'm curious, what was your writing journey that kind of led you to decide to write a novel and get it published?
So I started writing when I was 7 years old. I was at my grandparents' house, and my cousin had written a story, and she showed it to me. And I said that I could do that too. And so then I read it to her, and it kind of just went from there.
That's great. So, who are some of your favorite writers that you enjoy reading?
I like reading Rick Riordan's books, Percy Jackson series. I like, think about that one. I like the Spy School series. That one's a good one. So mostly action and adventure.
Sure. And I'm curious, have any of your friends at school or any of your teachers read Havoc, and what has their response been?
My best friend read it first, and she's one of the only people in my class who got it done. And she said she really liked it.
That's great. Well, you mentioned that you got the idea from writing about the characters. I'm just curious, what was kind of the writing process when you were working on Havoc? When you sat down and started working on the characters, did you end up outlining the book before you started writing, or did you just kind of write and see where it led you?
I'm not really the best with outlining. It doesn't help if I outline things. So I kind of just went along with whatever I wrote, and then it ended up being a book, which makes it harder for editing, but that's the way that I have written.
That's great. Well, are you working on another novel now?
I just finished the sequel to Havoc, Serenity. And now I'm writing the prequel, the 3rd book and the final book in the series. And I've gotten to, it's several parts, so it's going to be very long, but I've gotten to 30,000 words so far around there.
Wow. Well, do you plan to spend a lot of your summer writing?
Yeah. We're going some places this summer, but writing will definitely be a big part of everything that I do.
That's great. Well, given your experience of writing writing Havoc, and then, as you said, the second book, what writing advice would you offer for someone who's listening who may be writing their own story or novel?
I would say that you should just try to write it. Even if you don't think it sounds good, that can be fixed later. That's what I do most of the time, and it's turned out pretty well, so can't really critique it.
That's great. Well, Where can people find you online if they'd like to learn more about you and your debut novel, Havoc?
They can go to my website, egkeith.com. I also have an author biography on my Amazon page where the book is sold. And I have a Goodreads profile that tells more about me.
That's great. Well, you said that Havoc is five teenagers working together to save their prince. Do you have a favorite character out of the five, or are they all your favorites?
This question is kind of like asking a mom to pick one of their favorite kids. I don't really have a solid answer to that, but there are definitely times where writing one character has been a lot easier than writing some of the others because I'm writing from all of their point of views. So they think differently, so I have to think differently. So some of it is a challenge and some of it isn't.
That's great. Well, again, we've been speaking with E.G. Keith, author of the debut novel Havoc. The novel is available now, so go buy a copy. And E.G., thanks for doing this interview.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great.